Chair, thank you for joining me today. I wanted to start by saying that when our members look at the European tax framework, they see a system that has grown significantly in complexity and that has got tangible effects on investment decisions. So in your position as chair of FISC, if you had to identify, let's say, 2 to 3 elements of EU tax law to strengthen European competitiveness, what would those be?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, we need to establish that what is competitiveness. Yeah, I have an idea of competitiveness which comes from a systemic, holistic approach. Competitiveness is what a country or European Union can do to produce goods in an efficient way, of course, but as well with some quality and with some standard for labor and for the market. So given that, I think that one of the issues which need to be recovered in order to cover for competitiveness is investment in the industrial sector, in particular in the automotive sector. Mm-hmm. We are observing today, and this is really a pain for a citizen coming from Italy, which has been an industrial, automotive-oriented country for decades, to see that we are losing, in particular in automotive competitiveness. Losing competitiveness in automotive, it means that you are losing not only cars, you are losing different segments of an economy, of structure of the economy. So how to recover competitiveness with that? With tax, I don't think so. We recover competitiveness with that with more investment, not only private, but as well with partnership with public. We need I always say that we need a sure program in the automotive sector to support what we are doing. The transition, yes, from one side, but from another side, we have to support as well the supply chain and the firms. I have some idea on that, and we have put it in a proposal at the Parliament, in the plenary ones, which is, for instance, abolishing the VAT for buying electric car. This would meet as well the request of the supplier, but as well would meet the request of citizens who can have a lower cost in accessing electric car, which usually are more expensive. Secondly, we need to support the investment in the electro sector. So we know that there is really a lot of things to do in order to compete with other countries like China, which has soft budget constraint. It's a state basically which supports firms, which does everything it can in order to support competitiveness in the holistic way I was mentioning before. And we are not able to compete only through the market with them. So that's why I think that Europe has to take care as well of pushing investment and giving tax credit, for instance, this domain for focusing on more and on a transition towards the electric. And last but not least, this is a transition which has some social cost. Mm-hmm. I see that countries like Germany, Italy, Belgium, Slovakia, they are suffering in social terms with employment, furlough scheme and unemployment, the worst cases. This needs supported as well. So when we say we need an holistic approach to support competitiveness, in particular in the industrial sector, we need a program with some resources, probably the same resources that we are putting in defense. I think that we need in industry, for one side to cope with the crisis in the automotive, and from other side to boost our competitiveness in the artificial intelligence sector. And we do have this margin to work on the VAT from one side, on the investment sector from another side with tax credit, and in supporting labor in this transition.
Okay, and I do quite like this holistic approach, and it leads me maybe to the next question, which is maybe more tax-focused in the sense that if we look at the tax framework in the EU, you will know this, you will hear this very often, it has become increasingly layered, right? So if you look at individual measures, those may actually be justified, but we look at them collectively. And the impact of that is that the system is becoming very difficult to manage if you're trying to operate in Europe. So then my question to you is that as FISC, should you be placing more emphasis on assessing the overall coherence and proportionality of the tax framework rather than evaluating proposals in isolation?
I see. Well, no, again, I think that we could evaluate the system as a whole, and one of the channels that European Union is following right now, which I see that there are some element of the positive element, is the 28th regime. Yeah. Now, the 28th regime can be a way of having a simplification, of having a smart access, in particular for startup, to create business and to foster competitiveness. I agree on that. One thing that we need to care of is when we have a 28th regime, do we forget about harmonization? Well, if the introduction of a 28th regime would mean the end of harmonization, I will think twice. Because a priority for a single market, one market, a big market, is to look at harmonization as well. I always give this example. We care very much about the interest rate that the central bank is fixing and rightly to cope with inflation, to stabilize prices. You know, President Lagarde is always very careful about that, correctly. But then we do not care about the indirect cost of capital, which is corporate tax. Every member state does what they want. We do have fragmentation, and this is as well affecting negatively the capital market union. So that's why I say that if we go for 28th regime but forget harmonization, I don't think that this is the right path. If we do both, well, then I understand more.
Okay, let's go a little bit to the future, 2030. By the end of this parliamentary mandate, I suspect we will, in Europe, be managing the costs of the green transition. We'll be faced with geopolitical fragmentation, continue to be doing so. We'll be seeing more demographic pressures, and we will presumably have more significant fiscal pressures. So, when we look back at the end of this mandate, what would success in EU tax policy mean to you?
Well, I would like to see some step forward in the Pillar 1, which is the digital taxation. We have found a sort of agreement on Pillar 2 with the global minimum taxation, the side-by-side approach, which is not probably exactly what Europe wants, at least what I want, but it's an agreement which stabilizes the economy. So these things need to be stabilized, Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. Then I think that something that we need to cope with is the simplification. That's right. I know that this has been always a request by the business side. I understand. Simplification comes from introduction of some normative approach that we are introducing with the omnibus. That's fine. From another side, the simplification comes from exchange of information in real time, comes from harmonization as well. So I think that if we boost these two elements, from one side harmonization, from another side simplification, we can be happy at European level, given the fact that tax policy is a sovereign policy, it's a sovereign national policy.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today and for sharing also your insights as to where you'd like to see EU tax policy.
Thank you very much.